Hey, how's it going? Dave2D here. This is the Hades Canyon NUC. This is Intel's latest super small computer that's running that Kaby Lake G CPU. So if you don't know what this thing is, it's like Intel always makes these small computers called NUCs. They're these like tiny little boxes like this, and they kind of get faster and better every year. But this year, they took it up an extra notch. This is running that new 8th gen chip that combines an Intel Core i7 with a Radeon Vega M GPU. It's like this collaboration with Intel and AMD to make this extremely efficient CPU, and that's what we have powering this whole device. Okay, so the thing that makes this thing special is its size. This thing's 1.2 liters. It's a little bit bigger than the previous generation, but it's still super small. You don't get cases like this very often. Like, you've seen my videos where I build into ITX cases. The smallest one I've ever done was like, I think 6 or 7 liters, 1.2 liters. It's small. There's an external AC adapter, which you obviously plug up to this, but the unit itself, you can leave it out as like a media center unit or leave it on your table if you really want small devices. But I use this thing as, I didn't use it as a laptop, but I basically brought this thing back and forth from work for a couple months last year. Not this one, but a NUC. And it was like 2 AC adapters, one at work, one at home. These things are just so small, so portable that you can do a lot with them. Very versatile devices. Now this is a bare bones unit, so it doesn't come with RAM, storage, or even an operating system. You have to pop it open and put it in yourself. There's 2 NVMe drive slots and 2 RAM slots. You can pack up to 32 gigs of RAM, and it's actually really easy to build into the system. Like, very few screws you have to deal with. And every time I open one of these things up, it surprises me as to how they can fit everything into something so small while still retaining all of the functionality. So this thing actually has a crazy number of ports. There's 2 Thunderbolt 3s, a bunch of USB-As. This is completely riddled with ports, but despite that, despite being nothing but ports and grills all over, it still looks really clean, and the top lights up. So when I was at CES and I first saw this thing, it looked like the skull only lit up in blue and red, and it kind of made sense because I thought the blue was supposed to represent Intel and the red for AMD's GPU, but it's actually full RGB action. You can change the colors of basically every single light in here, plus the skull and the eye socket, and if you want to, you can kill all the lights and just make it look super stealth. And the interesting thing is that when you remove all the lights, like when you don't light it up at all, you can't see any trace of that skull on the surface. So if you want to keep it really muted, you can just by turning off the lights. Okay, performance on this thing is quite good. It's running the highest end Kaby Lake G chip, so the 8809G, and it's a quad-core CPU with hyper-threading. I ran a bunch of benchmarks and it put out strong but kind of expected numbers for the clock speed, because remember, this is a Kaby Lake architecture, not the Coffee Lake architecture. But more interesting to me was the GPU performance. So that Radeon Vega M GH, it's close in performance to a GTX 1060, not quite as powerful, more similar to the 1060 Max Q, a very capable card. So you'll be able to hit 60 frames per second on most AAA titles. You might have to finesse the graphics quality a bit, but overall I'm impressed, and it's running some earlier drivers, right? There's always room for improvement over time. But the thing that makes this thing like so cool is that the CPU and the GPU all fit into here on one chip. It's a 100 watt TDP package, and I'm getting 85 frames per second in Doom on ultra graphics at 1080p in a box that's 1.2 liters. Like, that's, do you see how crazy that is? This has never been done before. This is a super tiny machine with really good gaming performance. And VR is actually capable on this. It's not like a VR monster. You won't be able to keep up with the higher resolution of the new Vive Pro, but it can handle the regular HTC Vive. Thermally, it's also quite good. The default settings won't have any kind of throttling. You can overclock it with Intel XTU, but I wasn't able to get any substantial gains in the short amount of time I played with it. One of the first things I noticed when I booted this thing up was how quiet it was. So the Skull Canyon NUC from last year was pretty quiet, but it was audible still, even on idle. This one was essentially silent when I first turned it on. On light load, the fan spin up a little bit, but even on maximum load, this is still a very quiet PC. So right now, if you're trying to build a PC and you're looking for like a smaller one, you can build something into an ITX case, and it'll cost you around $800 for something that's similar in performance. This is $1,000 at the top end. There's a lower specs model I think goes for $800, so depending on what you need or what you want, you can swap that around. But I do think that the premium that you pay for something this small and this compact with this kind of performance is not that huge. I think it's very reasonable considering what this thing is capable of. It does have limited upgrade capabilities because I don't think you're popping out that CPU too easily, but if you're looking for something that's small and light and relatively powerful, check this thing out. It's like a really cool small PC. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.